Understanding Aphorism 5. The fifth aphorism states, useful to the physician in assisting him to cure are the particulars of the most probable exciting cause of the acute disease, as also the most significant points in the whole history of the chronic disease, to enable him to discover its fundamental cause, which is generally due to a chronic miasm. In these investigations, the ascertainable physical constitution of the patient, especially when the disease is chronic, his moral and intellectual character, his occupation, mode of living and habits, his social and domestic relations, his age, sexual functions, etc. are to be taken into consideration. When you are treating an acute case with homeopathy, one of the most important points to know is the exciting cause. Not the virus or the bacteria, but that cause which made the body susceptible to an illness, the cause which excited the susceptibility. In conventional medicine, the occurrence of an acute disease is very simply understood. You come in contact with the pathogen and you catch the cold or fever or diarrhea or any other acute disease. You ask them why some people are more prone to catching colds, and the simple answer is they have a weaker immunity. But in homeopathy, we go beyond such simple and superficial explanations of acute diseases. We believe that there are innumerable factors which can disturb our homeostasis, derange our vitality, and make us prone to an illness. These factors which excite our susceptibility can vary from physical factors like exposure to heat, cold, rain, dampness, sun, or factors like overheating or overindulgence in anything, be it food, drinks, or sex. Mental factors like too much stress about studies or watching too much television. Emotional factors like loss of a loved one or a heartbreak, etc. Many of these factors, if persist for a long time, can lead to chronic conditions. But often, the first reaction to any such stress is an acute. Let me give some examples of exciting causes of acute diseases. If constipation sets in after a mental shock or nervous strain, magnesium carb might be the remedy. If you get a cold after getting a haircut, mind it, not a hairdo, but a shave or a crew cut, then nux vomica or belladonna might be your remedy. If you get a cough after eating rich food, then magmure or pulsatilla might be your remedy. If you get a diarrhea after drinking cold water on hot days, veratrum album might be your remedy. I can go on and give hundreds of other examples, but the point to understand here is that the nervous strain, the haircut, the rich food, etc. do not by themselves cause disease. They just disturb the fine equilibrium in our body, make it more prone to the actions of pathogens, which ultimately leads to the development of disease symptoms. Another important thing to remember is that the correct remedy should not just cover the exciting cause, but also the presenting symptoms. Treating an acute condition is not always easy, as the exciting cause is not always very evident. Still, the process of finding the remedy for an acute case is straightforward when compared to the treatment of chronic cases. A person suffering from chronic gastric disturbance is very unlikely to tell you about the typhoid that was maltreated when he was 3. A person suffering from Alzheimer's might not even remember the name of his first crush, leave aside telling you the agony her affair with someone else caused. A person suffering from congestive heart failure is similarly unlikely to relate a theft in his house 20 years ago as the starting point of his sickness. So it's not always easy to pinpoint one exciting cause that triggered a chronic illness. So how do we treat a chronic disease systematically? If we just start treating the current complaints in a chronic case, we will not be able to move beyond palliation in the majority of cases. Just like in an acute case, in chronic case also, we have to chart the complete course of illness. But how? In acute cases, it's easy to record changes by minutes and hours. But how do you chart a chronic illness spanning many decades? Hahnemann gave the answer. Take note of the most significant points in the whole history of the chronic disease. A chronic illness does not develop overnight, and often the patients come to us with case histories running into decades. During the whole lifespan of the patient, there are usually episodes of significant acute illness, some starting point where the chronic disease is identified, followed by some treatment, usually conventional allopathic, after which there is a gradual increase in the intensity and variety of complaints as well as the medicines. When you start treating a chronic case, you have to gather all this information to treat judiciously. But how does all this information help in treatment? How does the past history help in selecting a remedy and managing a case? Hahnemann says that all this information, the backward tracking, enables him to discover its fundamental cause, which is generally due to a chronic miasm. That is, it allows you to identify the underlying miasm, the inherent susceptibility of the patient, which is usually the fundamental cause of a chronic disease. Let me give you an example. Suppose you have got 4 asthma patients. All of them will show the common signs and symptoms of asthma like breathlessness, wheezing respiration, aggravation by cold and exertion, and often night too, dry cough, etc. This is the presenting picture of the chief complaint. So do we give the same remedy to all of them? Let's delve a bit deeper into their histories. One of them was declared asthmatic in infancy, and both of his parents were asthmatic. The second one had eczema on both legs 10 years ago. It was suppressed with corticosteroids for years, and gradually he developed occasional episodes of breathlessness. The third one used to suffer from frequent colds, which were usually treated with antibiotics. Later he developed allergic rhinitis with sensitivity to dust, mites, pollens, strong odors, and many other things. He kept taking anti-allergic drugs for years, and gradually symptoms of dry cough and dyspnea started manifesting. The fourth one is a miner and has worked in coal mines for 20 years. His breathlessness has increased gradually over these years. The first case, with strong family history, is clearly psychotic, and the medicines that might work for him are natrum sulph and medurinum. The second case, with history of suppression of skin disease, is clearly psoric, and the medicine for him is most likely sulfur. The third one, with marked hypersensitivity, is very much syphilitic, and the medicine that might work for him is Merxol. The last one suffers from a pseudochronic or an occupational disease. Hahnemann has said, fundamental cause, which is generally, mind it, he said, is generally, not always, due to a chronic miasm. And this last case falls into this category, where the fundamental cause is not a chronic miasm. The medicine that might help this case is stannum. This is just a gross example of how the origin and the course of disease affects our remedy selection. There might be finer variations depending upon the complete case details and modalities. But our work does not end here. In chronic cases, apart from finding the fundamental cause, we also need to find out about the physical and mental constitution of the patient, his occupation, mode of living, habits, lifestyle, relationships, and much more. To understand the importance of all these factors in detail, we'll need another lecture. So till we meet again, digest the importance of the exciting and the fundamental causes in homeopathic treatment.